Now I'll turn it over to Heather for our next segment. Heather brings 22 years of engineering experience to Opendoor, having led teams at Lyft, Capital One, and Blackboard. At Opendoor, she leads the engineering organization focused on the core product experience for home sellers, along with growth initiatives and retail partnerships. Heather lives in Berkeley, California with her husband and two boys. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Sumedha, and thank you so much for presenting on the storybook and Percy testing. I've personally seen the impact of that on our quality and productivity. And I'm really excited to host this next session with which will be a Q&A with our panelists. So I'd like to invite everyone back to come back on the screen. And while they're doing that, I wanted to talk about leadership in this Q&A. And as an engineering leader, I believe we should be creating opportunities for leadership at all levels, whether you're an intern or a staff engineer. And one of the things I love about Opendoor is seeing that demonstration of leadership every day with every single person I work with. And I've personally seen that leadership demonstrated by these particular panelists. So I'd love to ask each of you first, what do each of you believe has contributed to your ability to demonstrate leadership at Opendoor? And I think we have everybody on now. So Morgan, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate the question. There's two things that come to mind for me. The first piece I would say is, it sounds pretty simple, but I have practiced the art of assuming good intent at all costs in every scenario. Because I think sometimes in leadership, it can be quite easy to become a little bit defensive because you want to do well and you want to show up correctly. And so I think if you operate from a perspective of no matter what's thrown at me, I'm going to assume that this was thrown at me with good intention, it will help calm that defensiveness so that you can respond in an appropriate manner. So that's the first piece. The second piece I would say is, the team that I'm on specifically has done a really good job of teaching me how to lead collaboratively. I think it's super important that whenever you are leading, whether it's a new project, whether it's a team, whether you're just building new relationships with other partners throughout your business, it's vital, it's paramount that you don't look at yourself as the single source of truth, but rather you work in conjunction with the parties that are involved to make sure that you all are leading in the same direction. So the two that I would say is assuming good intent and leading collaboratively.
Yeah, it's so true and really insightful, Morgan. I really appreciate your thoughts. How about you, Annie?
Hey guys, I am unable to start my video, but I'm here. If whoever's hosting can start my video for me, that'd be great. If not, no worries. Oh, here we go. All right, I'm back. This is such a great question. I think that my ability to demonstrate leadership at Opendoor has really been stemmed from, as a designer and as a design leader, kind of related to what I was talking about in my talk, really helping everyone at the organization really obsess over problems, over ideas, and really, one of the key values that we have at Opendoor now is to start and end with the customer. And I think a lot of being about a designer is building that empathy and really obsessing over customers. And that ultimately gets you to obsess over problems rather than solutions. So I'd say that's one aspect. And the other aspect is really keeping in mind that execution matters. It's not all about like coming up with cool ideas and cool visions and stuff. That at the end of the day, we need to keep a high bar for what we do. And so execution really amounts to making sure that teams are working really collaboratively, that designers and PMs and engineers are working collaboratively and are in sync. And we do these workshops to make sure that people are in sync. So I think, the dual sense of just making sure that we're obsessing over customers and problems and also making sure that we're really executing to high level is kind of my leadership style.
Yeah, that's really great. And I agree. I've seen so much of that at Opendoor, the collaboration that, especially collaboration that you facilitated. And it's certainly a differentiator, I think, how much Opendoor obsesses over their customers. So that's great. Maggie, what are your thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, I feel like one of the best things about working at Opendoor is that there's no shortage of good ideas, only people to make those ideas a reality. Opendoor's business has a lot of different facets, and there are opportunities everywhere for taking on more responsibility. So, like for me personally at Opendoor, I just feel like getting more leadership opportunities and developing myself as a leader has mostly just been a matter of raising my hand.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. And I think the business complexity at Opendoor is really interesting and absolutely creates those opportunities. I love that. Amy, how have you experienced leadership at Opendoor?
Yeah, not only the complexity of the type of problem Opendoor trying to solve, but also I would say iBuyer, this whole industry is still very new and young, like a startup feel when you join Opendoor compared to I used to work at a more mature, larger technical company. I can definitely feel the culture difference here. Not everything is perfect. It's set up already. There, you don't see maybe a perfect data engineering team prepare perfect data that can be consumed by data science team. A lot of time you need to do the heavy lifting and see where the gap is, where the problem is, not just complaining for the missing pieces, but actually can propose a solution and just do it. So that naturally create the gap, created the opportunity for emerging new leader, especially for me coming from IC now transitioning into a leadership role. The other thing I want to mention is this one team, one dream culture. It is this core value for Opendoor. So when you see area for improvement, even not within your immediate team, maybe it's a cross-functional team, but you can contribute. There's nobody will stop you and say, just do your own team's work. There's always collaboration opportunity, and you can just extend your influence outside your immediate team and the service area.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's spot on, and the sense of ownership that everyone has and doing that as a team is just, it's so much more powerful and becomes a real multiplier. How about you, Sumedha? How do you feel like the Opendoor experience has allowed you to demonstrate your leadership?
Okay, sorry about that. One of the honestly, one of the best examples of like how one of the best ways I've been able to actually demonstrate leadership and grow is every week, every other week, we have these kind of architectural meetings, and it's really allowed me to not just have ownership of the code and like the surface areas that my team operates in, but really expand that beyond that, and gives us a lot of opportunities to propose and facilitate a lot of discussions that have impact beyond just your specific team. And so really getting to establish that level of ownership at a much, much, much broader level and really expand your impact across the company. Yeah, that's been like one of the most unique and interesting ways that I've been able to really develop leadership here.
Yeah, I've seen that with a lot of people, and we really want to include everybody in that process, and I think it's really elevated a lot of amazing ideas, much more long-term thinking, and has really pushed the organization to the next level. So yeah, it's a great example. And clearly each of you have developed deep domain expertise. And so, on top of that, each of you have considered the direction in which you grow, and whether it's moving to people management or focusing on deepening your multiplying impact. So were there specific things you considered in order to decide which direction to take your career? And maybe we'll start with Maggie.
Thanks, Heather. I have been thinking a lot about going into people management. So I'm working on that transition right now. About a year ago, I got the opportunity to be a tech lead for a team. And I found that performing the leadership role was a lot more rewarding than being an IC. So I've really been taking on pursuing that and getting involved with the crafting of our transition role and starting to craft those documents.
That's great. Yeah, and I think your selflessness that you demonstrate every day is really a huge impact to the rest of the team, and so it's really great to see you moving into people management. Amy, how about you? You mentioned you were recently transitioning more from IC to leadership. What were some specific things you considered?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would summarize the decision-making process I consider two factors. One is what my strength is, to what my passion is about. Three is, well, what's the company goal is. I think the perfect position is all three factors can align the best. Sometimes what you want to do doesn't really align with the bigger picture, what the company want to go, or the long-term goal. I have seen sometimes, especially technical, a very deep technical person, they just want to utilize specific technology or toolings, but that doesn't necessarily solve the immediate business problem. So that it's a misalignment. I think the perfect position where when everybody try to evaluate what's the best role is, do you see an opportunity or can the next position that help you align the three factor better? For me, I joined Opendoor relatively recent, end of last year. I joined as a senior IC. Now I'm in the tech lead position. So I enjoy my current position. It gave me both the freedom to do some project roadmap planning, management, and also stay close to the technology while I'm still learning about the business. But eventually, based on how I feel, how I evaluate the three factor alignment, I will make my decision for the next step.
Yeah, that's great. It's so great that you've gotten these opportunities so quickly, and yet you can always change your mind and feel supported and how you grow there. I think that's great. Sumedha, how have you thought about your career direction?
Yeah, for me, it came down to as simple as I really just like writing code. As nutty as that sounds, writing code and really spending a lot of time diving into our customer experiences, whether that's from a product design or even engineering standpoint. Obviously, as I grow more as a senior IC, it's definitely less about doing a lot of the nitty gritty code myself, but really figuring out how I can better enable those around me to accomplish whether it's technical goals or OKRs or things like that. And then also, how can I set some technical standards around best practices while really starting to think a lot more big picture about our systems? And those are the challenges that really excite me and maybe really want to go down the route of becoming a more senior IC for sure.
That's great. Yeah, it's hard to debate, not liking to code. Annie, you've provided leadership at Opendoor for quite a while. How have you thought about your career direction?
Yeah, so I started off at Opendoor a long time ago as a senior designer, and I was a senior IC, and I worked on pretty much the end-to-end experience and various parts of the experience. And then, about 2.5 years ago, I moved to management. And I think one guiding principle that I've really had about my career has always just been to optimize for growth, because I am happiest when I am learning and challenged. And so I was honestly really happy being an IC. I love designing and learned a lot, especially going from designing just digital experiences at my previous gigs to Opendoor, where I was really challenged in designing these online and offline experiences. And as Opendoor grew, I got the opportunity to manage. And when there was the opportunity, I was actually really excited. And I actually told my manager that I wanted this opportunity. And I think that's one thing that I would advise everyone to is I actually don't believe there is a certain stereotype, for ICs, like if you are this way, you're a great IC, or if this way you're a great manager. And if you're curious and you want to grow into one or the other, make it known to your manager. Might not be that like immediately you can do it, but that's one thing I always tell, especially females. Like I think, you know, just tell, like if there isn't a right or wrong answer. If you're curious about something, just say that, because that's ultimately how I ended up in management. I was really curious about it. I saw an opportunity. I told my manager, and he helped me you know, work my way through it. And as our company grew, I got to scale our team, and I've really found a lot of enjoyment in supporting my team and not being kind of like the hands-on IC. I also haven't ruled out though that maybe in the future, next gig, I want to be an IC again. And so I believe that there's a lot of fluidity to this. Yeah,
that's excellent advice. I wholeheartedly agree. I have similar experiences. Morgan, you inspired us with just your self-awareness talk. How do you think personally about your own career direction?
Sure. Well, let me just tell you, Heather, my career has been nothing short of a jungle gym. I have been a senior manager, an entry-level IC, a senior IC, a lead, back to management, back to IC. All of that's happened like in the span of about 6 years. And in different sectors too, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing and advertising, leadership and development, or learning and development rather. So my decision-making process, generally speaking, is with regard to the skills that I'd like to nurture. That's basically how I base my decisions. So the trajectory of my career, it's based on the skill sets and the acumen that I hope to cultivate at a specific time. And whatever those skill sets are, I am going to look for a position or a role in which it will specifically help me get to that next step. And I'm less concerned about what the title is and more concerned about what the end result could potentially be.
Yeah, that's great advice. It's sometimes hard to take the time to even think about that, but I think it's really important. Well, I appreciate all of the panelists' thoughtful answers, and that's a wrap for the presentation portion. I also wanted to thank the Girl Geek team for all you do for the community, and I'm going to put my LinkedIn into the chat. Feel free to connect with me and reference this event if you want to hear more about Opendoor. So I'll invite Angie back on the screen to share the next portion of the breakout sessions.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing your insights and your journeys with us. Really enjoyed all the talks and the conversation about this is what leadership looks like. So we will be sharing some Opendoor jobs via email. Keep an eye out for that. That's actually an event survey and also links to the Opendoor jobs.